The ground began to shake at 6 in the evening. 20,000 horsemen thundered down a mountainside. At their front rode wings made of feathers. Within 3 hours, the largest siege in Europe collapsed. This is the day the Winged Hussars saved Vienna. It started 2 months earlier, in July 1683. An enormous Ottoman army marched toward the city. Estimates vary, but numbers likely reached over 100,000. Leading them was Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha. He wanted more than a victory. He wanted Vienna itself, the heart of an empire. Vienna sat at the edge of the Habsburg lands. It guarded the road into the rest of Europe. If Vienna fell, all of Central Europe lay open. Kingdoms further west had every reason to worry. The Ottomans surrounded the city and began digging in. Cannons pounded the walls day and night. Engineers tunneled beneath the fortifications, planting explosives underground. Their camp outside the walls looked like a small city. Tens of thousands of tents stretched across the countryside. Inside Vienna, the situation grew desperate fast. Roughly 15,000 defenders faced overwhelming odds outside. Food supplies shrank with every passing week. Disease spread through crowded streets and shelters. Civilians crowded inside, with nowhere left to flee. Commander Ernst Rüdiger von Starhemberg refused to surrender. He organized defenders to plug breaches as fast as possible. Every night, soldiers listened for the sound of digging. Ottoman sappers were trying to blow the walls apart. Time and again, defenders found the tunnels first. They destroyed them just before the charges went off. It was a battle fought both above and below ground. Every wall breach meant close, brutal, hand-to-hand fighting. Weeks passed. Vienna held, but barely. The defenders were running out of everything: food, ammunition, rested soldiers. Hope was thinning by the day. Messages went out, begging for help from anyone willing. That help came from an unexpected direction. King Jan III Sobieski of Poland answered the call. He had earned a fearsome reputation in battle already. His soldiers called him unbeatable against larger forces. He gathered the army and marched south immediately. Leaving Poland's own borders lightly guarded was a real risk. Sobieski took that risk anyway, believing Vienna mattered more. With him rode 3,000 elite Polish cavalry. They were known across Europe as the Winged Hussars. Wooden frames rose from their backs, lined with feathers. In a charge, the wings made a strange whistling roar. Some say it was meant to terrify enemy horses. Others say it simply marked their commanders in battle. Either way, no cavalry in Europe was feared more. For over a century, they had rarely lost a fight. Sobieski joined forces with German and Austrian troops. Their combined army reached roughly 70,000 men. It was a fragile alliance built from different languages and rulers. Commanders argued over strategy in the days before battle, yet everyone understood exactly what was at stake. If Vienna fell, the war would not stop there. Poland, Austria, and the German states all faced the same threat. On September 11th, the relief army reached the hills above the city. Below them, the Ottoman camp stretched for miles. The scale of it stunned even experienced soldiers. Fighting broke out immediately along the forested slopes. Austrian and German troops pushed hard against Ottoman lines. Ottoman counterattacks held them back through most of the day. Losses were heavy on both sides by nightfall. Neither side had broken the other yet. Both armies rested uneasily, waiting for morning. The next morning, September 12th, the real battle began. Imperial and Polish infantry advanced together down the mountain. Ottoman forces fought fiercely to hold their ground. For hours, the battle hung in the balance. Kara Mustafa focused much of his force on the city walls. He gambled that Vienna would fall before help arrived. He believed capturing the city mattered more than the battle outside. That gamble was about to cost him everything. By late afternoon, Sobieski made his move. He gathered every cavalryman he had left. Roughly 18,000 horsemen assembled behind the tree line. Among them rode his 3,000 Winged Hussars. Then, at his signal, the entire mass surged forward. It became the largest cavalry charge in recorded history. Lances lowered, hooves pounded, the ground itself seemed to tremble. Dust rose in a wall behind the charging riders. Sobieski rode at the very front of the charge. He led from the front, not from behind his men. The impact tore straight through the Ottoman lines. Soldiers who had fought all day suddenly faced fresh horsemen. Formations broke apart under the sheer weight of the charge. Panic spread through the camp within minutes. Kara Mustafa's own forces began fleeing in disorder. Even experienced units couldn't hold against that momentum. Sobieski led his riders straight into the enemy camp. Within 3 hours, the siege that lasted 2 months ended. The Ottoman army was in full retreat. What took 2 months to build collapsed in an afternoon. Kara Mustafa barely escaped the battlefield alive. He left behind tents, treasure, and thousands of dead. His personal belongings were captured along with his camp. Sobieski later sent word of the victory to Rome. He famously echoed a Roman general's words instead. "I came, I saw, God conquered," he reportedly said. For Kara Mustafa, the defeat brought no mercy at all. His superiors back home showed no patience for failure. Months later, he was executed on the Sultan's orders. His failure at Vienna had cost him everything. For Vienna, the relief felt almost impossible to believe. A city on the edge of starvation was suddenly safe. Church bells rang across the city that night. People who expected slaughter instead celebrated survival. Soldiers and civilians wept openly in the streets. Weeks of fear ended in a single afternoon. The Winged Hussars rode home as living legends. Their charge became one of the most retold moments in military history. Songs and paintings would celebrate it for centuries afterward. But the impact of that day went far beyond Vienna. This battle marked the edge of Ottoman expansion into Europe. Never again would Ottoman forces threaten the continent so deeply. Slowly, over the following decades, the empire's European borders retreated. A series of wars followed over the next 16 years. Each one pushed the frontier further back than before. By 1699, a treaty confirmed major territorial losses. Historians still call 1683 a genuine turning point. One battle, one desperate cavalry charge changed the map of a continent. Picture the scene one more time. A starving city, its walls crumbling under 2 months of siege. A sky suddenly filled with feathers and thunder. 20,000 horses breaking 100,000 men. Vienna stood only because that charge did not fail. If Sobieski had hesitated or arrived a week later, the outcome could have been very different. Some battles decide a war. This one decided the shape of Europe itself. Centuries later, the Winged Hussars are still remembered. Their wings, their charge, and their king who refused to wait.